Hey there, grade 6 learners. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in for today's explainer. We're going to unpack something honestly pretty magical today. We're looking at how totally ordinary natural materials, stuff you might literally walk right past every single day, gets transformed into these mind-blowing creative works. And this isn't just about making things that look pretty. It's actually about how these creations define exactly who we are, holding the very essence of Filipino identity. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's dive into performing creative works and cultural identity.
I want you to take a quick second and just picture your home, or maybe imagine taking a walk around your neighborhood here in Dagupan. Think about all those everyday objects lying around. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder how that woven banig you sleep on, or maybe a sturdy basket, or that rustic clay pot sitting in your kitchen was actually made? Like, where did it even come from before it ended up in your house? It's so easy to take this stuff for granted, right? But every single one of these objects has an incredible origin story, and it usually starts right in our own backyard.
Moving right along to section 1, nature's raw materials. Okay, let's get right into it. You've got to remember, long before modern plastics were a thing, and centuries before giant factory machines were churning out thousands of household goods, our ancestors had to rely entirely on what was literally right in front of them. These local materials were basically the backbone of daily life. They were gathered directly from nature. Take abaca fiber, for instance. Now, this comes from a plant that looks a whole lot like a banana tree, but it actually gives us these incredibly strong fibers. Then there's bamboo, harvested straight from local groves, super famous for being flexible but just unbelievably tough. And finally, clay, literally just scooped right out of the wet earth beneath our feet. These three materials were easy to find, super adaptable, and just totally essential for the community. But here's the human element to all this. A pile of abaca leaves or a big lump of wet clay doesn't just magically turn into a gorgeous mat or a cooking pot all by itself, right? It needs a maker. And that is exactly where local artistic processes come into play. We're talking about the traditional steps, the specific methods, and these really highly practiced techniques that have been passed down from one generation to the next. Think of these processes as kind of the invisible bridges that connect raw, untouched nature directly to a finished, totally functional piece of art. Which brings us to section 2, the transformation. So we've got our natural materials, and we know they need a process. Now let's look at the actual magic of how artisans turn nature into art. First up on the list is paghahabi, or weaving. And wow, this is just an incredibly intricate process. It involves interlacing these long strands of plant fibers, like that abaca we mentioned earlier, or maybe some dried burry leaves. By really carefully crossing these strands over and under one another in these tight rhythmic patterns, artisans can create beautifully sturdy mats like the banig or wide-brimmed hats to block the sun, and even vibrant, super colorful textiles. Honestly, it takes immense patience, precision, and a serious eye for design. Next up, let's look at paglalilok, which is the art of wood carving. Just imagine taking a solid, heavy block of wood and somehow seeing the art hidden away inside of it. Local artisans use highly specialized carving tools to meticulously chip and shave away at the wood. And through this process, they carve out incredibly intricate designs and figures, making everything from detailed, expressive sculptures to stuff you use around the house every day that still looks absolutely beautiful. It's just a stunning display of taking a rigid material and transforming it into something completely dynamic. And our third transformative process is pagpapalayok, or pottery making. This one is probably the most hands-on process of the bunch. Artisans literally gather wet earth, clay, and just start shaping it. They might use a spinning potter's wheel, or they might mold the whole thing entirely by hand, relying strictly on touch and feel. Once they've perfected the shape of, say, a jar or a cooking pot, they put it into a roaring fire and bake it until it hardens into a sturdy, heat-resistant vessel. It's literally taking the earth itself and turning it into the heart of the kitchen. How cool is that? Moving on to section 3, weaving our cultural identity. When we talk about all these artistic processes, we aren't just talking about making objects. Even if you're just sitting in a classroom doing a simple paper weaving exercise, taking 2 colored strips of paper and crossing them over and under, you're actually physically connecting with a process that means something so much deeper to our community. And that deeper meaning, that is cultural identity. It's the shared sense of belonging. It wraps up the traditions and the absolute signature style of a community that sets it completely apart from the rest of the world. So when an artisan shapes a clay pot or weaves a banig using the exact same techniques their great-grandparents used, they aren't just making a household item. No way. They are proudly expressing their cultural identity. They're showing the world exactly who they are. And it all brilliantly builds into this complete cycle. It's basically a 3-step journey. Step 1, we gather local materials directly from our environment. Step 2, we apply those traditional processes, paghahabi, paglililok, and pagbabalayok. And finally, step 3, the ultimate result of combining those local materials with that traditional knowledge is the pure expression of our cultural identity. Every single step relies on the one right before it, and together they result in preserving our deep cultural pride. And that brings us to our final section, Section 4, Keeping the Story Alive. Every single time we preserve and practice these processes, we're making sure our community's totally unique story and history continue to thrive. But now, it's time for you to take what you've learned today and actually put it into practice. To test your understanding of today's explainer, I need you to go ahead and pull out your one-page music and arts worksheet. Your mission is super clear. First up, complete the fill-in-the-blank section to really lock in those key vocabulary words we talked about. Next, tackle the multiple-choice questions to test your grasp of the concepts. After that, finish the matching type section to connect the processes to their specific materials. And finally, and hey, this is important, don't skip this, make sure you check off your student completion checklist right at the bottom of the page so we know you've confidently finished up the task. As you head off to crush that assignment, I want to leave you with one final, really powerful thought. Without these traditions, a special part of our identity is lost. I want you to think deeply about that for a second. These artworks are way more than just objects, guys. They are literally our living history. So, I have a question for you. As you grow up and look around your own community, what traditions will you help keep alive? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, grade 6 learners. Keep exploring all the rich culture and arts around you, and I will catch you next time.